Okay, buddy. We are live.
What's good?
What's good? What's going on, man?
Oh, it's busy as always.
I bet. I have a question for you today, Rivus. I've been hearing a lot about the Caolina Bays.
Really?
Yeah. Do you have any information on the Caolina Bays?
Dude, these are some of the coolest things ever. Like when I first found them, or discovered them on the internet, because we all find everything on the internet, guys. They kind of blew me away because I live on the East Coast, and I was like, dude, I could literally go fly to these things if I wanted to. But so the Caolina Bays are these really interesting elliptical formations in the soft, silty soils of the East Coast, basically from New York all the way down to Florida. We find traces of Caolina Bays. And I'm over here on Google Earth, and so we can zoom in here and show you guys what we're talking about here. But easiest way to find them is that you find the East Coast, you see this little nub dude right here, just zoom in on that right there, and then pull up here, and we will start to see some Caolina Bays. Now, what's amazing about these things is that we had no idea they existed until we had the ability to fly, because they're so large you can't tell they exist just by standing on the ground. I mean, let's just go ahead and measure one of these dudes. Let's pick this guy to get an idea of how long this thing is. That's in meters. Let's do feet. That is 12,745 feet long. Okay.
What's that, miles?
Let's do that in miles. 2.41 miles.
So it looks like an Easter egg facing.
Isn't that just, Easter was just the other day. Isn't that convenient?
It's facing, looks like if southeast,
yes,
in my opinion, or northwest, from whatever direction it might have come from. If it came from a direction, how do we know these just aren't old lakes dried up, or what are they?
There's a lot of different theories. There has been a lot of different ideas on what formed these things. And the current geological explanation that they're currently teaching is that during the Ice Age, wind coming off of the Laurentide ice sheet, the massive glacier that used to be sitting here on top of Canada, wind coming into the United States was making these pools of large bodies of water circulate to create these ovals.
Wait, so you're saying the wind?
Yeah. So we have this graph right here that I can show you. So the way this air would come into the pool, it would kind of make it rotate like this, like double vortex spinning.
Okay.
That would then kind of press out the silty sand into these oval shapes. So that's just one of many ideas. Obviously, some of the more crazy ones were giant beavers. You have some of water coming up underneath the crust of the earth, causing, a kind of like a sinkhole almost, kind of like this. Let me zoom in here so you can see this a little bit better. There's many, many different ideas, but the current one is wind formed these guys. Someone who was studying them figured out that they are these elongated ovals. And so what he did is that they drew a line through the apex of the ovals and extended it outward to figure out where they're all pointing to, basically from the peak down here to the top of it up here, and extended that line out to see and figure out where they were pointing to. And on just a flat map drawing straight lines, there's no general connection. And this is kind of the general direction that they all point, just on a flat map drawing straight lines. However, if we calculate for the curvature of the Earth, the Coriolis effect, and travel time, something really interesting happens. All of those lines then converge roughly to one spot up where the Great Lakes are, where Saginaw Crater is located. And we also find these kind of bays out in the Midwest, all pointing to this one spot.
A meteor, comet, what do they think something hit here? So you have this dichotomy thought of either the wind blowing off the glacier down in and causing almost this whirlpool effect, pushing the sediment out, creating these bays. And you have now somebody else saying, wait, let's take this a little bit further. Could something have hit here and cause projectiles to cause these? Is that what you're saying?
It is possible. It is possible. And, in the academic world, they get a little upset when you talk about things coming out of the sky for some reason. But one of the people who has been studying this kind of stuff for a while now and has come up with this hypothesis of a impact event into the ice sheet that was sitting on top of Michigan. The impact ejected trillions of tons of ice into the atmosphere, ice boulders. We're talking objects the size of cars, houses, and baseball stadiums getting launched into the sky in all directions. And all of that debris would eventually fall back to the planet, pelting the ground so violently the scars can still be seen today. That's just one idea. And if you guys want some good information about the Caolina Bays impact hypothesis, come check out this YouTube channel right here. Antonio Zamora, really great researcher and just an independent guy who does his own experiments and calculations on how the bays were actually formed by these massive ice boulders. So really cool stuff. Go check him out. So the idea that the Caolina Bays were created by wind really doesn't make any sense because of a really good reason Antonio Zamora points out. Take a look at this LiDAR imagery of the Caolina Bays. And do you notice how like some of the ovals like overlap one another?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How is this really possible if all of this is being formed by the wind roughly around the same time period? Like how is this water circulating like this to create uniform, basically identical ovals just in different sizes?
Yeah.
Overlapping one another. That really has not been explained at all by the wind hypothesis so far. But if we're talking about like a dump and rain of debris from the sky, all of this stuff is falling at different moments.
Mm-hmm.
One will land here, creating a crater, and then another one will land, creating the second crater right next to it, overlapping the older crater. And that, honestly, to me, makes a lot more freaking sense than wind. Just
what they look so perfect. Like
they literally are perfect. That's just it. They are all the exact same oval inside in their shape, just at different sizes.
Just a quick question. Why, you would think that something being impact, like how high are the rims of these, like the crest of these?
They look like hills.
So
and the highest rim is towards the southeast, not the north. The north is the shallow end, and they get basically deeper and steeper towards the north, towards the south. Excuse me.
So you possibly what we think might be going on, or what had happened, was some type of meteor hit the glacier, causing ice debris or shrapnel. That's the word I was looking for. Shrapnel to just go in all these different directions.
Yeah.
What angle did they have to land at? Because you would think it would either be more dug in, with a higher slope on that.
Well, actually, that's a great question. And Zamora gives an answer for that. He explains the type of earth we're talking about in these areas is very marshy swampland kind of stuff. So the impact into such a soft material makes the ground basically a liquid and viscous, to where it basically would ripple, and then all that viscosity would eventually settle and then fill back in the crater that was dug out.
Okay. So then what about the time that it happened? Is this implying that it was after a saturation of the land? For instance, if that's wet there now because the water level has risen, it's that wet there. If the water level was 400 feet lower, like they say happened before the ice age, would it have been that wet in that area to where it was marshy land?
From the sample cores, from what I understand, from the sample cores that they've done so far, this type of terrain has been there for a really long time. I forget the exact time, but it definitely would have been during the ice age. Now, obviously, there could have been more type of fauna in the area, not just the trees we see there today, but the sediment and everything we see there has been around for a long time, and just it is pretty old. Let's put it that way. I don't know enough about it to be any definitive answer on that, but
I'm sure even during the ice age, we're talking about the Carolinas, the ice didn't go down that far. So sure, I can imagine even in an ice age time that there was more moisture in the ground itself as opposed to in the air. Because of the runoff from the glaciers. They were, I'm sure, constantly heating and cooling, of melting. It wasn't always just non-melting. There had to be some type of water coming off. And if the ice sheets came down that far, you would think that runoff would be in that general area. So, okay, maybe, I can understand how it would be that have that texture or that consistency. You have swampy, wet area, even if the water levels are 400 feet deep.
Definitely. And what's interesting is that when you start to travel further north to where you get to more of the mountains and Rockies, they just suddenly disappear. We only really find them towards closer to the East Coast, where everything is really flat and this kind of marshy landscape.
It would make sense too if it were ice in a marshy landscape, and because ice isn't going to break rock as much hitting it.
Exactly. Think of them like giant, massive snowballs, like moving several 100 miles an hour hitting the ground.
Or even just
and which is why, because when the Caolina Bays were first discovered, people thought they were craters. So they began digging into the center of them, looking for extraterrestrial rock, but would always come up empty-handed because there was no extraterrestrial rock that hit the ground. There's no evidence for that. Okay. So that's why it's been this big, weird question mark. But if it was ice, first of all, this would explain why they're all pointing to the same spot and why we would find no material at the bottom of them, because it was ice. It just melted away.
So do they know anything more about what caused the impact or the possible impact site? You said you had some lines that drew to a centralized Saginaw Crater.
Yeah. And as far as I'm aware, they say that Saginaw Crater is pretty freaking old. I want to say 50,000 years old. I'm not positive, but Saginaw Crater is located right here in the middle of the Saginaw Lake right here in Michigan.
Oh, so that's what caused the little mitten shape of Michigan, possibly?
Yes. There is a crater at the center of that spot right there. But notice how the lakes kind of all surround that center point right there.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a massive sheet of ice sitting on top of here, and something plunges into that 2-mile thick glacier. It acts as a buffer and would just pound this massive shape into the earth. Mm-hmm. And could that be what actually formed the Great Lakes? Yes, they were definitely formed by melting glacial ice, but were they assisted from something else? Just one of those questions. And Antonio Zamora goes over that kind of stuff, and it's really freaking cool.
The Great Lakes to me have always been an oddity. Like, it's just these huge lakes in the middle of a continent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, I understand the movement of glaciers, and that's a lot of weight, kind of digging and pushing and really moving the dirt out to create these voids. I get that. But I mean, there was a glacier over the entire Canadian region. Why just in this area? And something like that would, I mean, is it just a terrain thing? Is it just the way the earth is? Or could they be assisted by something impact driven?
I definitely think there's a lot more to them than we currently know. I 100% believe that.
It's a fun talk, man. Caolina Bays have always kind of triggered my interest. I love the East Coast. I love going down through that way. So thank you for explaining this to me. I really do appreciate it.
No problem, bro.
Kind of opened it up a little bit for me. If anybody else out there enjoyed this video and got some information from Rivus or Phantom Universe, make sure you give the channel a thumbs up. We really do appreciate you guys hanging out and watching these things with us. So until our next video, we appreciate it. Thank you, and
bye.
All right, next time I want to talk more about that TikTok with you think it was supposed to be a statue. I want to dig into that.
Oh yeah, the Yangshan Quarry.
Mm-hmm. I think that there's a lot of stuff shrouded in China that people don't know about.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I know that.
Like there's like rumors of like a giant pyramid larger than the Great Pyramid in China that nobody's ever, one person in a plane a long time ago saw it, and that's the only record of its existence.